And Alexander the Great says, yeah, I know. He says, I know he would have been happy with that. He goes, but I'm Alexander the Great. And this represents who I am. Hi, my name's Devin. Today I own several multi-million-dollar companies. We started with $5,000 in a credit card. I don't know the easy way. I only know the hard way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, where I give straightforward advice to fuel the entrepreneur in all of us. I'm Devin Dickinson, and today I want to talk to you about giving. It's towards the end of the year. It's December, and one of my favorite times of the year is the holiday season. I love Christmas. We actually put up, we're one of those weirdos that put up our Christmas tree November 1st, literally the day, like the last trick-or-treater rings the doorbell. We turn off the light and start putting up the Christmas tree, right? So we stopped watching It's a Great Pumpkin or The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and literally it's Elf, 20 minutes later. And so I'm definitely one of those weirdos that people talk about in the neighborhood. Like, can you believe the Dickinsons have their Christmas tree up already? Well, that's me, right? I love this time of the year. But one of the things I love about this time of the year is we do our year-end giving. And so I want to explain this, and I want to challenge anyone who's listening to this right now to be a giver, right? And so I'm going to use the phrase, be a giver, because that means that's who you are. You are a giver. You're not a tipper. Do you understand the difference? Because a giver gives and a tipper goes, I had a good year. Thanks, universe. Here's some money back, right? Like, I did pretty good this year. Here's a little tip for the dealer. It's like you're sitting at a blackjack table, right? And you like flip a couple of chips at the end to the dealer, right? Like it's like, God did me right this year. I'm gonna flip a few chips back to the guy, back to the big guy, right? And that's what I think that's how most people have been taught to live their lives. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to be defined as a giver. Like you need to be known as a giver, right? And giving is a decision. It's who you are. It defines you. It's how you live your life. Just like there are people who literally every time, like you've seen them for the last 20 years and they are always in shape. You don't ask them, wow, did you go to the gym today? You already know. Like, that's who they are, right? Like they're the dude who goes to the gym, right? They're the guy or the gal who always orders the right thing they always have the salad and the chicken salad and you're eating the garbage that you do, right? Like, it's not like for me, I have good days and bad days when it comes to working out, good days and bad days when it comes to eating, right? But there are people in my life that are like, no, that's who they are. Like they run. They work out, they eat right. That defines them. That's who they are. And that's what a giver is as well. Like you need to define yourself as a giver. And giving isn't out of an emotional response. Now it can be. Like, listen, that's great. Like if you're like, hey, I got super inspired and I gave more than I normally do. Cool. That's awesome. But like being a giver defines how you live your life, how you spend your money, what your priorities are, what your dreams are, right? And so for me, coming back to this time of the year, we do our year-end giving. And so my wife and I have a percentage. We know what it is. It is what it is, period. It is what it is, but it's also exciting for us, right? So we actually sit down, we go through it. We figure out what the dollar amount is as a percentage, right? Not like, hey, what do we feel like? We literally are givers and we know what we're going to give, right? But we multiply that percentage by, what we made or whatever. And that becomes this number. And then we're like, okay, where does this money go? This much is going here. This much is going there. That much is going there. Right. And we just, and that's so exciting for us. We sit down and we celebrate that. And right now you might be saying, oh, that's great. Someday, when I'm like Devin and I own these companies, I'm going to do that too. That's not true. You won't. You won't do it later if you don't do it now, right? Because if you decide, someday I'm going to give like 10%, someday I'm going to give 15%, someday I'm going to give 20%, whatever the percentage is that you believe that you've been called to give, whatever that amount is, you think someday I'm going to do that. Well, let me tell you something. Let's just say, for instance, the number is 10%. If you're like, well, I only made like $10,000 this year. So for me to give $1,000 away, there's no way I can do that. Right. But someday When I make $100,000, I can easily give $10,000 away. No, you're not. No, you won't. You won't. Like, if you can't make $10,000 and donate $1,000 or gift $1,000, when you make $100,000, you will not give $10,000. And when you make $10 million, trust me, you will not give $1 million away. And you think, yes, I will. No, you won't. Because those numbers, those zeros, you're like, am I really going to give this much away? Absolutely. That's like walking into the gym saying, someday I'm going to bench 450 pounds and literally never walk into the gym and to put 450 pounds on it and it's going to freaking crush your neck. There's no way you're going to do it if you can't lift the bar, right? So you have to start by lifting the bar, and then you do 145 or 135, and then you go to eventually 225, and you eventually get to 450 like me. No, not 450 this week. I didn't have the best week working out. But anyways, like I said, trust me, if you can't bench the bar, you're never going to be able to get to 450. And so but like I said, you get to decide who you are. And the great thing is you can do this as a percentage, right? Like, it's amazing that you can go and just decide one day that you're a giver. You decide that percentage and then you live your life. And you can do that all kinds of different ways. You can do a percentage out of your paycheck each week. You can do a percentage at the end of the year. There's all kinds of really cool ways that you can do it. Sometimes you can even do it with gifted stock, right? Like, so someday, as your portfolio grows, you can gift stock. There's all kinds of fun and creative ways to do this. But I told you in the beginning that this was an exciting time of the year because my wife and I celebrate this moment. Like, we celebrate and love giving this money, gifting it away because, number one, we're so excited to know what's going to happen with that money, but it makes us part of it. Like, we become invested in what we're giving to. And that's exciting for us. And we want to see what it does. And we want to be part of what it does. And we know that goes out and beyond us. There's a story I like to tell when it comes to this. It's not from the Bible. It's not from anywhere. And literally, I don't even know if it's true, right? Like, I have no idea, but I'm going to tell you the story anyways. But it's a story about Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great is riding on this horse, and he's riding through the city, and has all of his people with him, and his bannermen, and the people protecting him, and all these people. And this beggar runs up and begs for money. And Alexander the Great reaches in and he flips him, like, I don't know, a big fat gold coin. We'll call it a denarius. I know that's not right, but anyways, it's a denarius or whatever it is. He flips him a coin, and his advisors look to him and they're like, you just gave him like an entire year's worth of wages. This guy, he would have been happy with, basically a Happy Meal. And Alexander the Great says, yeah, I know. He says, I know he would have been happy with that. He goes, but I'm Alexander the Great, and this represents who I am. And so when you become a giver, it represents who you are. And so for me, I celebrate this moment. I celebrate giving. I'd love to do it with my wife and my kids, and we're united in this. And let me encourage you to be a giver. Let me encourage you to celebrate it. And let me encourage you that you now become, just like Alexander Great, a giver. It defines who you are. I'm Devin, and this is Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast. And I know that this is going to make your life actually richer.